Hi, this is Tawang. Today I just want to talk you something about the concept of no self. Um, we normally believe that we can define ourselves. For example, if someone say that I'm American, or I love basketball, I love chicken, uh, I'm tall, I'm fat. So we normally identify the self, and we used to give personality or features to the body, and we define self as someone solid, concrete, or something. But if someone asks you to find who am I, we will never gonna find it because uh, as the Buddha told us that there is no self. Because if you look at the if you investigate carefully where is a self, and if we say that the who where is a self, who am I? Am I the name, or am I the body, or am I the mind? Because uh, your name cannot recognize you. Mainly believe that our name can define us, because we cannot define ourselves, the self, by name. Because in the class there are bunch of people who have same name. So if we can define self by the name, in that sense that the if group of people have same name, they must have same self. For example, if in our class there are a bunch of Jose, if Jose, and if they are the same name, that doesn't mean that all the Jose have the same self. So we cannot define self by name. So we normally used to define self sometimes by the name. Now, am I the body? Can we define the self by the body? That is, of course, we cannot define the self by the body, because the body is keep on changing, and it's momentarily changing. Uh, the old man at the age of 80 is different from when he was a young man. Let's see, if we give an example of the President Obama. President Obama is very different from when he became the President of America and when he was in high school. So it's a way more different. So he have changed a lot. So the President Obama, when he was in the high school, and then right now he was the President of America, it's way more different. So we cannot define the concept of self just by the body. Now, am I the mind or the thought? And the mind and the thought is also keep on changing. The unpleasant moment is followed by the pleasant moment. Like, for example, if you take one cookies, and first of all you like the cookie, oh, I like it. But if you take so much of cookie, then you got an the pleasant moment followed by the unpleasant mind, that, oh, I don't like that. So there is no permanent self. The reason why there is no permanent self is everything from the body to the mind to the consciousness is momentarily changing. That everything is prone to change. There's no such thing like permanent. If you look at uh, the flower, when we look at the flower, we will say, "Oh, that's flower. Oh, that's rose. That's a pink flower, or whatever, the red flower or something." But we used to give a name to that flower. But if you look at the flower carefully, in reality, there's no such thing like flower, because flower is a combination of different parts. And if you look at the flower, uh, flower, to be a flower, it needs a soil, it needs sunshine, it needs a cloud, it needs a gardener. Flower cannot be by herself. If there is no water, flower gonna dry soon. And once the flower is gonna dry soon and it become ashes, no one will say this is flower. So in reality, the flower don't have a separate existence. So that means that there is no permanent self where we can call this is flower, because it's momentarily changing from its from small sweet seed, it become a flower. And once the flower didn't get the sunshine and then the water, it's gonna die. The flower will vanish. Same thing is same to the human being. When we were born from our mother's womb, we were a small kids, and from then our body changed, our body grew up, and then our mind also change, and as we die we were far more different from uh, when we were small kids. So in that sense, we cannot particularly def- define the concept of self, that this is self, this is, and now we cannot define at all. So now the reason why we cannot define that this is it is that all things are not permanent. All things are momentarily changing. Time by time, second by second, minute by minute, it's changing. So there's no such thing like permanent self. So if you look at the different group of religion, like especially the monotheistic religion like Christianity, Islam, and Judaism, they had a strong concept of self, that there is a self, there is an eternal soul. And if you look at Hinduism also, there is a concept of self. But there is one religion, Buddhism, where the Buddha told us that there is no self. And one of the main reasons behind why the Buddha say there is no self is that it doesn't mean that when Buddha said there is no self, it doesn't mean that there is no flower. There is a flower. We could see the flower, but the reason why the Buddha says there is no self or there is no flower is that the flower doesn't exist by herself. Flower cannot be herself. Flower need to interact with the cosmos, interbe with the cosmos. Or flower to be a flower, it need a water, it need a gardener, it need a sunshine, it need a cloud. Once any of these non-flower elements were removed from the flower will vanish. Same thing is also similar to the human being. If we as a human being, let's say, if we take our mother from us, our father from us, the minerals, the vegetable, and non-human elements from us, we will vanish. If there is no father, there is no son. If there is no son, there is no father. All things are interrelated to each other. So there is no such thing like permanent self where we could call this is it. There is no permanent self where we could pin out that this is it. So the Buddha said that if you believe in the permanent self, then it will lead you to suffering. Because if you believe in a permanent self like you and me, he and she, we and they, then it will create, it will increase the attachment, it will increase ignorance within us. It will increase the desire, it will increase the hope within us. But if you look at the one of the main Buddha's teaching, was not to believe in. It doesn't talk about belief in God, but one of the main teaching was to get rid of our suffering. Why we suffer in this world, and one of the main reason of the key to cause of suffering is the ignorance. And believing in the permanent self will spring out the ignorance. So if I give an example of the permanent self, let's say in 9/11, the September 11, when Osama bin Laden attacked the World Trade Center, and we had some sense of feeling that Osama bin Laden is a man who was a terrorist, or who was an Arab, who was a Muslim, or bunch of, we used to give some property to bin Laden. And after the tragedy happened, there is a strong sense of difference between the American with the Christian dominance on one side and the Islamic world on the other side. So that is one of the main example that the concept of self, you and me, that created a sense of separation within all humanity. And but the concept of no self doesn't mean that or there is no flower, or there is no human being. But the concept of no self simply means that there is no such thing like permanent self. We can point out, oh, this is self. This is Osama bin Laden. This is the flower. This is the tree. This is the computer. This is the car. If we give an example of the car, and if we remove if we remove the well, if we remove the window, if we remove all the parts of the car from the car will vanish. There is no such thing like the permanent self for the car where we can define car. All things are interdependent to each other. So in that sense, there is no such thing as permanent self.